Good day. I am Felix J. Knight, and this is Satanic Perspective. Good day to all. Thank you for tuning in. Hail thyself. Hail Satan. Today, Satanic Perspective would like to introduce another Satanist who will be joining us and will be posting their own videos, thoughts, views, and opinions. Their name is Vesper Thorne, and they have a lot to share with the channel. In their first video, Vesper will be going over some of their concerns with the unfortunate overturning of Roe v. Wade, and would like to point out just a few of the problems that are likely to arise if we do not address and fix the problems with banning abortion overall. We here at Satanic Perspective feel that Vesper has some very valid points and think that viewers should hear them. So, without further ado, here is Vesper Thorne.
Hello, I'm Vesper Thorne. I prefer they, them pronouns. That's a pseudonym to protect my identity, but that's what I'd like to go by on this channel. I'm a non-theistic Satanist, and I'm a former Christian. I'd like to share my perspective on what the so-called fruits of these new abortion restrictions will likely be. I hope I can make clear for y'all that these pro-life people are not as life-loving as they claim to be, or as life-loving as they think they are. Of course, these aren't the only consequences that will follow the new abortion laws, but these are just the ones that I wanted to focus on for this video. Number 1. More people will die as a result of these laws. From untreated miscarriages to deaths in childbirth, more fully developed sentient people that we know for a fact are people will die. As we saw in the pandemic, harsh right-wing policies will lead to mass death. They did before, they're going to do it again. Child abuse cases will increase due to the number of unwanted children who will be born. The reality is that unwanted children are more likely to end up in the problematic foster care system, like it or not. Also, the negative emotions of people who choose to keep their unwanted baby can and will lead to more cases of child abuse. Number 3. The adoption and foster care systems will be flooded with more children, more than can be handled properly, I'm sure. It will also lead to more cases of abuse and neglect for children. Number 4. This is only the beginning of a reversal of feminism's hard-won progress. The religious right most certainly wants to force their disgusting dogma on the whole of our civilized society. If they can take any other rights away that don't align with their dogma, be assured that they will. Number 5. The religious right will become even more flagrant in their violations of the separation of church and state, leading to its further erosion. To preface this conversation, I'd like to remind everyone that when I speak of God or Satan, I am referring to them as characters and archetypes, or examples to live by. I do not believe in a literal God. I do not believe in a literal Satan, not as deities that I can pray to or worship, or as spirits or anything like that. Alright, let's start with number 1. The fact that children will suffer more now that abortion is no longer federally protected. As I've mentioned already, the rate of child abuse is set to increase post-Roe. Having a child is a major life change and can be a huge source of stress, even for parents who planned for a child and wanted that child. Many people who seek abortions largely do so because for one reason or another, they're not ready to be parents. Or they might have the maximum amount of kids they can afford or handle already. And one more child may be the difference between survival for their family or slipping into poverty, homelessness, mental illness. Children in desperate situations are more likely to be neglected, abused, or face hunger due to high levels of stress and a lack of resources. This is just the suffering faced by children whose parents decided to raise them after being denied an abortion. What about those who will inevitably go to the foster care system or be put up for adoption? Some babies will end up there because they were given up, but others might enter when the person who was denied an abortion dies in childbirth or has their child taken away from them. Children are frequently abused and shuffled around in the foster care system. They don't grow up with a sense of stability, and they carry the wounds of maltreatment with them throughout their entire lives. Of course, there are lovely people who foster children, and not everyone out there is an abuser, and not every child who goes through the system ends up traumatized, but it does happen frequently. The adoption and foster care systems are already filled with children who will be wards of the state until they turn 18, and this number is only going to go up. Which one is worse, sending a child into this miserable system, or preventing them from coming into existence in the first place? Fetuses are not conscious, and they do not feel pain. A heartbeat is not consciousness. A fetus cannot suffer when aborted, but a living woman and a living baby most certainly can suffer. Secondly, many who end up pregnant and are denied an abortion will die. There are plenty of people out there who cannot handle pregnancy in both a medical and psychological sense. It's not only those who will die in childbirth. It will come from being denied miscarriage care, unsafe home abortions, homicide by partner. Yes, men often kill their pregnant partners. Postpartum depression, suicide, infections after delivery, worsening of pre-existing conditions. There are people in this world who should not be pregnant or give birth, and those people deserve access to abortion. It is health care. Of course, the reversal of Roe won't stop at damage to the individual. Society itself will slide further back into the past. The fact that a huge victory for women's rights can be overturned like this means other victories can be overturned too. This conservative Congress will likely not stop at Roe. Same-sex marriage has been legal less than a decade. It became legal, I think it was June 26, 2015. That's not very long. It's not even 7 years yet, at the time of this recording. Transgender rights are still being fought for. It might seem extreme to say this, but the right of a woman to get a bank account or have a credit card by herself, to vote, to be admitted to college, to have a more equal place at work, equal pay, to be on juries. These are all the progress of just the last century. The last 105 years or so. The Bible declares women to be second-class citizens, and if given the chance, these Bible-thumping idiots will make sure this comes to pass. Christians will scream, "Think of the children," all day long, but their concerns and their thinking are only surface deep. On the surface, abortion is scary. I mean, we've seen all the pictures, right? It's natural to have a visceral reaction to something like that. But a person has to take a step back, to pause, to think of the alternatives. You have to think about what this procedure really is, beyond the shocking propaganda images on billboards and people who will yell murderer at you. What's really happening is that a fetus is being removed from a person who does not wish to be pregnant. The person who is pregnant is a fully formed human being with consciousness and desires and dreams and feelings and an ability to feel pain and to die. The fetus has none of these things. It is simply, oftentimes, a clump of cells that is being removed. Which life is more important here? To end, the line between church and state has been blurred by this ruling. Pastors around the country love to gaslight us by preaching that this country was not intended to be secular, and they very much want a Christian nation. Every victory we let them take will bring our society closer to theocracy. Eventually, non-Christians will be made targets in this nation, I fear, like in the theocracies of the past and present. We already face prejudice and discrimination as it is. I can't even wear my pentagram necklace out in public without fear of it somehow getting back to my family and, being, disowned. The abuses of power at the hands of the Supreme Court will only become worse in violation of the separation of church and state now that they see what they can get away with. They will take everything if we do not stand up to them. Satan represents rebellion against God's tyranny, and it is time to stand up and resist. We need to keep the conversation about this topic alive. The public has a very short attention span. We can't forget what they did to us, and we must work to both find loopholes and to reverse what has been done. We must vote in new candidates who will defend our rights. We must educate those who we can educate and change minds to our side. We have to continue to protest and make our wills and our voices heard. Tyranny never sleeps, and we will never stop fighting for our rights. Hail Satan and hail thyself.